What's up guys, welcome back. This is of course Sugi Shogun here, returning after a bit of a hiatus. I've been sick a lot lately, been adjusting to my new medication, but hopefully from now on I will be less absent on the channel. And today we're going to be talking about Boku no Hero Academia Season 6. Now on the old channel I did review the first 4 seasons of this series, but Season 5 I probably did not review on this new channel due to the fact that I was busy at the time. Now, the only thing I really need to add about Season 5 is that throughout its last arc, which is the Liberation Army arc, I think the series took fundamentally a lot more darker tone. It became a lot more depressive, a lot more gloomier, and that thematic persists throughout Season 6 as well. So this is a season which really revolves around kind of like this sort of a massive expose about the hero world, and things are not pretty as they seem to be. And then there are these tragic backstories and depressive things happening in the world, and you know, the heroes are doubting themselves and the world is on chaos. Like, it's very, very dark times, and I have to say that in a lot of ways Season 6 and the end of Season 5 are really heavy because of that. And there will be spoilers in this review because there's no point of really doing these seasonal reviews without like actually going in the meat and the potatoes of like what actually went down. So this is basically broken down into 3 different arcs. The first arc is the Paranormal Liberation Front arc, then becomes the Tartarus arc, and then becomes, I think it's called the Lost Hero arc or the Dark Hero arc. Now, the beginning arc is very, very action-packed, basically the heroes. And I think a lot of ways, like this first arc is kind of part of, like, where obviously Season 5 ends, but in a lot of ways it would have been maybe a lot more smarter to basically include this alongside with Season 5, because they're a lot more connected to each other in terms of like the timelines, because the time cap happens after this first segment basically, but whatever. And this is probably the best part about this season in my opinion, and probably a lot of people agree. There's like a lot of high intensive fights, people get a bit of limelight, the heroes and the villains. There's Bubaigawara and I don't remember the guy with the magic balls or whatever it's called. So the couple of the villains get a bit of a character development here. One for All obviously gets a lot more showtime. All for One, sorry. And so there's a lot of like different types of focuses around this season and character development on certain characters. Deku obviously gets a lot of upgrades in his abilities, and this is kind of one of the issues about this series, because the author, the mangaka, didn't really think about like, I'm not gonna introduce any type of like hard magic system in this series, like haki or ki or reiyatsuto or something, chakra or anything like that. So every character is like limited to their abilities, and the characters that are the most broken obviously are the ones that can learn new abilities. Like, that's just like basic math. So everybody else is kind of like not getting really stronger because they can't really learn anything new, because they are like, even in the beginning of the series, they are in almost like in absolute capacity of their like abilities. There's only a couple of heroes really in the series which have like a drawback to their ability, which like had them cause like have problems of them controlling it. Deku being one of the prime examples of this, but a lot of the other characters really didn't have that problem, so they had the full capability of their abilities. And yeah, there's the one arc where they learn their ultimate abilities and learn their super the ultimate ability or whatever it's called, the super move. And basically like that's kind of been like problem that I always had with the design of this series, and that kind of also tells about like obviously the author probably wanted this series last a lot less than it should have been. Like, this paranormal arc is probably like one of the things that couldn't have existed, and they could have just straight up jumped into this last arc, this final arc of this series, and like wrap it up. I think it was really never meant to be or designed to be basically this long running series, and that the power system really speaks for that, in my opinion. And then after the Paranormal Liberation Front arc happens the Tartarus arc, which is basically people busting out from the prison. That was like, we got to see some of the old villains, not all of them though, and this was kind of like, it's kind of part of the Dark Hero arc, to be honest, because the prison arc is very short. It's like, I think 2 episodes max, and I think that was okay. And then the remaining of the season is about like Deku basically going full emo mode and learning about his new abilities. And the world is on turmoil. It's total chaos. Like everything has been destroyed. It's like 9/11 9/11 on every fucking building, basically. Like, it's actually kind of drastic how destructive shit began to be, which is maybe a bit overreach, because even in an anarchistic society, okay, where there's no law, there's no heroes, there's no police or whatever, like, things don't actually like end up this bad, because even the villains, like, they have to eat, they have to get food from somewhere. Like, the systems even are going to be still existing in society, even though it's full anarchy. So this idea that everything would be destroyed and everything, like, it's a bit overreach, and it's very post-apocalyptic. Every scenery that you basically see outside from the UA school, which is totally harmless for some reason, I guess. But I think it was an okay season, and I think there's like necessary build-ups here, and this is kind of like the build-up for the very last arc. I don't know what it's actually called, or the saga, the very the final. The battle is about the Pekin and the parts inside it. I don't know if the manga has already ended. I think it must be very, very close to an end at this point. I think the anime might even catch up quite a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised about that. It won't not have like anime original ending, obviously, but I do hope that this is not going to be persisting this sort of a lot more darker and gloomier aspect, like that emo phase. Like, this has to end, and the final battle has to basically begin, and obviously like Shigaraki gets a lot of like boosts up this season, and I think like he is just way too fucking OP right now. This, like, his base ability is just like very bad design in my opinion. Like, this is why I never liked like Superman, for example, because you just made him like be this like Swiss Army knife who can basically do anything. He can fly, it's his massive strength, and he's basically unrivaled in any ways, and it's basically the only ability that they had to do is like basically seal off his base ability so he can spam that, and that was like their solution, basically, the deal with Shigaraki, which is going to be more powerful. I don't know how the last fight is going to be ending. Is it going to be just like all for one, in an inner battle with Shigaraki, basically, and the Shigaraki will cause the body get destroyed or something like that, and that will be the solution for their victory. So that has to be kind of like the way it's going to go. That's my opinion. That's what I think will happen, basically. That's only the reasonable thing, unless like, and it's like, yeah, I don't really much have else to add here, but like, and I wasn't really a big fan of the openings and the endings this season. I think the previous seasons actually have been very solid, actually, and this time around, I think in season 6, like, I was not a fan of these. They were not really horrible, but they're not something I would listen outside of this thing. Now, I think I'm still gonna be very excited for season 7. I don't know how much like chapters we got lying around, obviously, because the last manga chapters are going to be a lot about fighting, so the fighting chapters are going to be a lot more they're going to be adapted much more faster in anime than they would in manga. So I think we're probably going to be getting like another 2 seasons. So 50 episodes in the series is probably over. But if you are reading the manga, please tell me your estimate, obviously, on the comment section below, without any spoilers, by the way. But yeah, I think it's a good like time to basically start out like building out this ending for this series. And it was also very interesting, like, when in the very ending they introduced this, like, American hero called Star, which is the number one. This is something that I always wondered about, like, is All Might number one hero in the world or number one hero in Japan? And this was kind of like something that Horikoshi never really, like, went into explaining, like, in the series, that, okay, is the ranking domestic or is it global? And how strong is this Star character exactly on grand scheme of things? And there could have been a lot more arcs which could have taken place in these other countries. I think one of the movies does, but this could have been like a lot more better, like the paranormal, the army and everything, like they could have taken place in another like city or something like that. And this is a spin-off manga which they probably will be adapting after this series ends, but also the spin-off could have taken place in Europe. It could have been taken place in Africa or America, and that would have been interesting. Like, the world of the My Hero Academia is great in the sense that you could basically tell stories about all around the world, but the idea that everything takes place in Japan is kind of silly, in my opinion. But I don't really have much else to add here, guys. I thought it was better season than the last one, and let's see how this series is going to be ending, on a high note or on a bad note. Let me know your comments in below. Thanks for watching. I will be seeing you when the next video drops.